All right. Hello, everyone. I am Justin,
And I'm Shauna.
and we are calling in from Happily Unemployed this time, not Ad Skills, as you may have remembered. Happily Unemployed.com is our new brand that we're building. And this is actually the first class or product of our new brand. So thank you, everyone, for being on here. There were some extra bonuses on this workshop just to sweeten the pot, and because we really want to make sure that our first customers, we want to make sure all of our customers are successful, but especially our first customers, we want to make sure that they're strong success stories that we will be able to build our brand off of long term. So we're really looking forward to getting to know everyone, getting very intimate with you guys, and knowing your websites and helping you along the ways. But we've got a lot planned for you here today.
All right, what we're going to cover. So you already saw the agenda, but we're going to dive into like a bird's eye view of the Knowledge Network business model. And then from there, we'll slowly start creeping deeper and deeper and deeper into like the behind the scenes, the very detailed parts of the business. So this first hour is really just giving you top level view, answering broad general questions. Throughout the day, we'll just dive deeper and deeper, going into like, how do we get the experts? What did we do for marketing and building hours, pricing strategies across different niches. And then literally behind the scenes, I've just like opened up the archive of everything you need to know about documents. It's every system that I built in the past, and we'll walk through those so that way you have those systems to get started with. And it took me years to build those systems.
Yes, there is also a community. If you haven't gotten the links, check your email, check your spam folders, your junk folders. It's a new email list that we have. We're working on all of our deliverability and everything like that. But the emails have gone out. So there is a community where you will be able to access the recordings of these workshops, as well as there's going to be documents, there's going to be tutorials, there's going to be interviews that I do. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out because, like I said, this is something we're building out over time. This is just kind of the initial launch, the grand opening, and then there's going to be a lot of conversation happening in the community. So make sure you get access to the community. All right. We've got some questions coming into the Q&A. I will come to those in a little bit here. But for anybody, there was some new people. I had a Twitter post go quite viral. Over 200,000 people saw this Twitter post. And so there are some new people to this, as well as some people just weren't interested in ad skills, and they're much more interested in this. So we're going to tell you a little bit of the backstory. And the backstory is kind of important because it shows you why we've come to this business model. You know, it's not that I think other business models are worse or whatever, but when you hear the story of what's led and the problems that this business model has solved for me, it's going to make a lot more sense as to why I do this now versus the high ticket coaching, traditional things that we may have all learned about and been doing. A lot of people have been asking me, should I have ClickFunnels for this? And it's not that I don't like ClickFunnels. Russell Brunson was my original mentor when I first started back in 2007. So I like ClickFunnels. It's just not the right tool for this. And we'll get into that. So not going all the way back to the beginning, but to the beginning of the
That's like 15 years ago. That's far.
But back to the beginning of the story that makes sense for today is I Am Scalable. We had started an agency called I Am Scalable, did very well. We scaled it to 7 figures. I was able to speak all over the world. I was interviewed on many of the top business podcasts, at least the top ones at the time, but I was on John Dumas's EO Fire. I was on Mixergy. I was on a lot of the big podcasts. We did really, really well. However, we started traveling, and this is a picture of our family in Bali here. We started traveling, and it was really hard to have a client-driven business while traveling. I was staying up till sometimes 1, 2 a.m. in the morning just to be able to be on calls with clients who were back in the United States. And so we wanted a different lifestyle. And so it wasn't that services stopped working or I thought courses were better than services. Many people have just assumed that I think courses is better than services. We were on top. I was at the top of the game, doing great. We just needed a different business model. And so we had bulletproof FB ads because you couldn't use the word Facebook
in any of your courses.
Yeah, you could get sued for that. So it was called bulletproof FB ads. And that was a downsell. To any of you that have services, here's your first strategy already, a first little nugget. We had the idea from a coach who said you should you should have a yes answer for every customer. You know,
every objection.
everybody that you're on the phone with, we were actually doing phone sales at the time. Everybody that you're on the phone with is going to buy something. They may not just be buying from you. And so we took the time to learn what they wanted. And some people, they weren't a fit for services. They just weren't there yet. And so we downsold them to Bulletproof FB ads so that they could learn how to run their own Facebook ads and get up to a point where they could then be a client of our services. Shauna is working on getting another account set up right now so that she can be able to answer questions.
I'm actually answering chat questions right now for anything not related to the workshop.
Yes. So she's not on Twitter, like battling people on Twitter. Or ignoring you. She's manning the chat. So that was Bulletproof FB ads. We already had that. That was kind of working. We said, you know what? Why don't we try another course? That would be a great business model for us. And so while in Bali, if any of you have watched the original Media Buying Masters, you can see I'm out by the pool. There's like exotic flowers behind me. Birds are chirping. I thought it was awful, but people ended up loving it.
They still love it to this day. When they go, they're like, that first one was so good.
I literally had a GoPro taped to a selfie stick because I didn't have the right mount for it. So last minute, we're panicking. We're duct taping the GoPro to the end of a like $5 selfie stick. I'm sitting in a lawn chair and I'm making the first course. And that was Media Buying Masters. And I would literally 5 minutes, I would talk for 5 minutes and I'd go run into Shauna and like, what should I say now? She's like, all right, talk about this thing. Then I'd go sit back in the chair. What should I say now?
Well, it's not like I was the mastermind. Like we had brainstormed what we were going to teach. We had outlined it and he would just like, okay, I know what I need to teach. He'd memorize what he needs to say and then records it, which, when you think about presenting, like we have slides today to keep us on track, but we didn't have slides for that first course and it was hours long.
Right.
And so
you had PowerPoint, but that was just janky and
it was basic. It was before we had beautiful PowerPoints, right? So anyhow, the face on was the next level. You wouldn't have used PowerPoint back then because it was like super basic,
and we're in Bali on Bali internet and just doing what we could. So anyways, long story short, Media Buying Masters ended up selling $48,000 worth. I think we launched it at $400, $500.
$498. Yep.
$498. Because I hate prices with sevens at the end, but that's a whole other workshop.
That's his own pet peeve.
And so $498, and we ended up making $48,000 in a weekend. And we were like, we should do that again. And we both agreed that we should do that again. And then that was the start of Ad Skills. In fact, if anybody who's been around long enough, that we actually started as DMBI Online because
which sounded so smart.
It sounded smart at the time. So there was another website called AWAI, American Writers and Institute.com or something like that. I don't know. And Writers Artists Institute, that's what it was. And so we were trying to sell to that company. They were basically a copywriting farm for a large publishing company. And so they would teach people copywriting, and then they would cherry pick the best copywriters and bring them into that business. And we said, well, we'll just create the ad buying version of that, the media buyer version of that for them, and then we'll sell the company to them. We did that. We built it up. We got to $500,000 pretty quickly because we had that momentum from my agency days in that first course. And then they weren't interested in buying it. And so then we were like, okay, well, we have to keep this business now. Let's do something with it. So we hired a fancy branding company, paid them thousands of dollars. They found the name Ad Skills for us.
They actually found us a list of 25 names that you could choose from that had do they have the social media links also?
Is the LLCs available? Is the trademarks available? All of that stuff. And so there was 3 that we narrowed it down to. We were almost paidtraffic.com, but then we decided on going with Ad Skills because we like that as a brand. Ad Skills 1.0, and this is where it starts to make sense of why we're talking about what we're talking about today. Ad Skills 1.0 was a la carte classes. It's kind of the typical beginner course business where you have one class and then you have another class and another class and another class. The problem with that is sometimes the problem is success. Okay. It became successful and you think of all the what could go wrong type of problems, but you often don't think about what could go right, so right that it becomes bad, and so actually tracking became a real nightmare, having this product and that product and that product and that product. And these days there's better software out. E-commerce is so much more popular.
Also, this is pre like Facebook pixel that goes across everything. So you used to have to create a pixel for every page, and then you'd have to like link them and know it. Like,
yeah,
tracking was not as easy as it is now, where you just take like one blanket pixel and it just covers everything.
So we kind of started creating some bundles. So instead of having like 14 products, we were able to have like 3 or 4. We had some mini bundles, and we would sell those. And we'll get into price testing later on. We have a whole session about pricing these things. So we did some bundles, and the bundles were working really, really well. And then I talked to another mentor of mine, Mark Ford, who actually is like one of the head guys. There's Bill Bonner and there's Mark Ford. They both run Agora together. And Mark had told me, well, why don't you just bundle everything in one package, sell it for like $5,000, and it's like you get everything for one price. It took off.
It did really well.
It did really well. I went home and
differentiator in the market. It lets us like differentiate ourselves from being like everyone that's teaching paid ads, which there weren't many in the beginning, but there were competitors. And so it let us just be like, well, that's for everybody that's beginning, and we're for the pros.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back up just a little bit. AdSkills 1.0, as we're creating more courses, I was realizing I can't keep up. I can't create all the courses. So
it was exhausting.
Yeah, we had found John Belcher, who had just come out of Google, actually. He'd come out of Google and he was starting his own little agency. He was great at Google Ads, YouTube. And so he created our first Bulletproof YouTube Ads course, or I think we call it Bulletproof YT Ads. And so that was our first other expert outside of me. And we started to, find other experts. And that's when we started giving them like just 50-50 commissions. And you've seen my case study of why that didn't work out. So that was AdSkills 1.0. Then we bundled everything together for $5,000. That made us millions. But then the problem with that was you have a new promotion. It's like you're starting out at 0 every month. And you have to come up with another promotion and another promotion and another promotion. And it just got to...
I won't say it was a problem in the sense that our business wasn't successful.
It was easy to track.
Yeah. It was just limited to scale.
Yeah.
So like the scale was required on the team. How many sales calls could we get? How good could our sales team be? Because at a $5,000 price point, people want to talk to a person.
Right.
And we wanted to be able to, and we also weren't servicing the whole market. Like at that point, there were a lot of people that couldn't afford us, but needed us because they didn't know how to go from freelancer to agency. Like they didn't know how to turn a skill into a business.
It's hard when you're trying to help freelancers make their first $5,000 a month, and you're charging them $5,000.
Right. It's really hard. And like your heart aches. So the AdSkills 2.0 was really birthed out of how do we help more people, not like just the pros, but how do we help more people?
Yes. So getting into knowledge networks, AdSkills 2.0 was when we switched from $5,000 you get everything to, we actually went all the way down to $8.99 just because I wanted to just shock the market and suck in lots of customers. So we started at $8.99 a month. That's $8.99 per month. And we had a bunch of different experts. And then the other thing about having the other experts is I had learned through the big package that having that big package, there was a lot to keep updated. We were constantly, Google would change their interface. We had to change this and we had to change that. By having new experts every month, we never had to update anything because we just had new stuff coming in. So if somebody didn't like that old video, we'd tell them, oh, look at our roadmap. We've got one coming in 2 months that's going to replace that. So this whole knowledge network thing, it was the culmination of fixing problems in the education business. And I believe it's been pretty close to perfection. I've been in this industry for 18 years. I've been selling courses for a long time. I've helped billion-dollar publishing companies with their education businesses. And so I've been around this for a long time, and knowledge networks is the best thing that I have found yet.